And hello, everyone. Welcome to Let's Be Honest with Peter Kozodoy. We are 1 week into the launch of Honest to Greatness, and it's been an incredible ride. Last week, I was doing up to 9 interviews like this a day, and my brain felt like scrambled eggs. Perhaps you all can relate. But nothing worth doing in life is going to be easy. And I feel that way about the book. So thank you to all of you who have been getting this and recommending it and getting them for your friends and family and colleagues and bosses. I've really appreciated it. Look at that. I love it. Thanks a lot, Darius. So here I have an incredible fellow entrepreneur, fellow author. His book is coming out in a little bit here. And he and I share so many core values, and you'll understand why I emphasized core values in a moment. Darius Mirshahzadeh, how you doing, man?
Peter, I'm doing amazing, brother. Yeah.
It's so great to hear that. And you and I were fast friends. I think we just share not only a lot of the same core values, but a lot of the same approaches and methodology to business and life. So it was great to get to know you quickly and have you on the show. So Darius, the show is Let's Be Honest, right? So we're going to try to get as deep and honest and vulnerable as possible. Why don't you take 3 minutes, tell everyone who you are, what you do, and what gets you inspired?
Yeah. So I'm a serial entrepreneur, dad. I got 2 great kids and wonderful wife, and live here in Austin, Texas. But yeah, I'm a serial entrepreneur, high growth entrepreneur. I've grown many. We don't ever talk about our failures. Failure is an orphan, and success has many fathers. So we can talk about my successes now, but seriously, I'll talk about my failures as well. But no, I've had 2 notable business successes. My first company I started in 2003. I grew it. It was a number 40 in the Inc. 500. This is before there was an Inc. 5000. And so if you were 501, they didn't even talk to you. And then that was an experience where I really got kind of my head kicked in and learned a lot. And I fell into the world of core values, learning from guys like Vern Harnish and Jeff Smart and all these amazing authors and thought leaders around high growth and scale. And I did this program called Birthing a Giant at MIT, which a bunch of the case studies in scaling up are actually classmates of mine. And so I ended up stumbling into core values, and then I got obsessed with it. I became like this person that everything revolved around how do you take core values and utilize them in the business, and then leverage that to create growth and scale. And what ended up happening was I took and I had this business that went from 30 to 300 employees in 18 months, from 2012 or 13 to middle of 13 to end of 14. And at the end of that, I had 0 growing pains. And I was like, what just happened? And then I went from 300 to 1,000, and I got my head kicked in again. But I learned something. I learned that core values have this opportunity to become the language of the organization. That's what I saw at 300 people. I was like, wow, everyone's on the same page. Everyone's holding each other accountable in this interesting way. And so I have really focused on how do you take core values and really make them the language of your business and of your life, personally, professionally. And I believe that every problem and every great thing that we have in our life starts and ends with our core values, that every result we have is formed from that. And it comes from really being authentic to what you are and who you are, both professionally and personally. And when you do that, good things start to happen. So my book is really a framework. The book is Core Value Equation. Comes out September 15th. And it's a framework of how do you do high growth? How do you create a high growth business with minimal brain damage through the framework of core values? And I believe that it is the absolute foundation for everything.
I love it. So now everyone out there understands like core values, authenticity, honesty. Thus, Darius and I were, of course, fast friends on that. So Darius, take us to a time, and it sounds like there are many, but I want you to pick out one story for us where you had to get brutally honest with yourself as a leader. And it could be personal, business, or family. What was the situation? What did you do? And what happened next?
Yeah. So it's funny. There was a moment when I had my first company, Twin Capital, where I was in year 3 of Birthing a Giants. I hadn't completed the course yet. And I came into my office one day, and like I said, I was 25 when I built the company. I'm 42 now. So this is back in 2006 and 2007. And And it was very different being a young entrepreneur then. Now you have things like a Y Combinator and 500 startups, and there's tons of online communities for entrepreneurs. Back then you had YEO, which is now called EO. And that was a thing that I didn't even like. How do you go find it if being an entrepreneur was not like this cool thing you did then? Now it's like everyone's an entrepreneur, but back then you weren't, right? So I was the only person I knew that was an entrepreneur, and I lived in San Francisco, which says a lot.
Wow.
And so I had built this company for myself and an assistant to 150 employees in less than 3 years, and did every single thing wrong. And it frankly was not a great company. It may have been 40 in the Inc. 500, but it wasn't a well-run business. There was tons of problems. And so I had this moment where I'd gone from this little crappy 200 square foot office into this mega tech office with 18,000 square feet and glass and metal and polished concrete floors. And I came in one day, and we had this one problem file, and I don't remember the name of it. Let's call it the Smith file. And I walk up to our compliance desk, and there's a guy, Brian, sitting at the compliance desk. And I say, "Hey, Brian, what's up with the Smith file?" Because it was a real problem. I think we had got like a letter from an attorney or something. And in mortgage banking, that's an issue, right? So these are people's homes. And so he literally didn't look at me. I'm CEO of the company, founder and CEO, shrugs and goes, "Oh no, man, not my job." And and my response in the book is cleaner than what really happened in real life. In real life, what I said was, "Well, Brian, whose fucking job is it? I'm the CEO, goddammit." And I walked off, and I was pissed. Now that wasn't the moment, actually. You'll like the moment, Peter. I go back into my office, and I got this big glass wall of an office, like overlooking this massive sales floor. And I sit in my chair, like I'm right now, and it just kind of threw up out of my mouth the words, "I hate this company." And then I said the most important thing I've ever said to myself at that moment in my life. And I said, "And it's all my fault." And I was brutally honest. I just said, "It's all my fault. I own this." And that was the beginning of me going down this road, of this like journey and this path to how do you build a really great organization, because I really cared to build it. I wanted to build a world-class company. Had you asked me then, what am I trying to build? Now I was a subprime mortgage lender, which is a story in of itself. But if you had asked me what I wanted to be, then I would have said, I want to be the #1 alternative mortgage lender in the entire world. That was literally my goal. And so here I am having problems like that with that goal in my head. And so I realized something had to change, and it started me down this path of really trying to understand what my authentic true self was as a business.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us, Darius. And, we've heard you've kind of gone up and down your timeline now, so we know you recovered and built other companies and did it the right way and all that, which is fantastic. So let's go even deeper. What was, looking back on your whole life, one of your biggest wins that you are most proud of even today? And then take us to one of your biggest losses or even regrets.
It's interesting, a great question. So I think that if you were to look on paper, what I'm about to say might be a little bit surprising. I mean, it's not totally surprising given the book I'm publishing, but if you look on paper, I've done some cool things. I was the #9 highest rated CEO in America on Glassdoor. I built this company from a very small company to a 1,000-person organization, which is essentially going from almost startup to that size. My business partner founded the company, so I don't take credit for that. But I got there when it was very, very small. And having done that was an amazing ride. Doing the MIT program and learning all about this and working with guys like Simon Sinek and Vern Harnish, and you go down the list. I mean, I met Simon Sinek in 2009 when nobody even knew who he was, and did a 40-person workshop with him and Tim Ferriss, when people didn't know who either of them were. And so I've done these really cool things, and on paper, and even if you looked financially at me, you'd be like, dude, that guy's killing it. But that's not what I'm most proud of. What I'm most proud of, and what I feel like is my biggest accomplishment right now, is having taken the time and the pain and the energy to learn how to not only figure out what my core values are in my personal life, but in my professional life, and to then turn them into something that I can hold myself and my organizations accountable to affect every result in my life, good or bad. And to actually really build that and learn that, understand that, is by far and away the greatest accomplishment I have ever made. Professionally. And personally, it's going to be my family, but that's my professional accomplishment is really this core value work.
Okay. What, you know, as I was listening to that, I was thinking just understanding that at a deeper level has to be fulfilling, right?
It's changed my life. So much so that I stepped down as CEO of my company. And so one of my friends said, what are you, Michael Jordan? You like step down at the top, right? And I said, it's a great company. I mean, they're an amazing company. You go on Glassdoor and look up that company, you'll be like, this looks like a really cool place to work, which it is. And I love my ex-business partners, and they're great people, and they're going to do good work there. But I stepped away, you know, after 20 years of being in the mortgage industry. I just retired from the mortgage industry. I exited my company, and that's a pretty scary thing to do. And I did it because I was brutally honest with myself that I couldn't live my core values and do that job, because nothing about the job. It's a great job. It's that I needed certain things that industry and that position would never be able to bring for me. And a lot of it had to do with my core values around creativity, and I just wasn't able to really leverage that in that business the way I'd always wanted to. So for me, it was really scary, but it was getting honest with myself that I had to do that. And I made that decision. I stepped away from something that even right now I'm figuring out, but I'm excited for it because I get to meet people like yourself that are doing the work you're doing. And I get to have my live stream show, and I'm promoting my book. And these are things that like really right now feel right. And I can never do that and be the CEO of my company at the same time. There's no way.
That takes so much courage. Honesty takes so much courage. It really does. Trust me, I know better than anyone else, right? And you know, you and I have such similar kind of stories. I mean, I've definitely built the company and the offices and the employees, and looked around and be like, why doesn't this feel good? What's wrong here? What's out of alignment here? And I would, you know, would you agree, Darius? Is it some or most people that you think ignore that feeling and just keep doing what they're doing? What would you say?
Well, so there's three parts to what I've kind of like. I've been doing a lot of work in one of my forums. I'm in a couple CEO forums, and one of the ones I'm in, we're doing this work around epic life and how do you live an epic life, and what do you? And a lot of that's around what do you? This goes back to honesty. There's a deep honesty you have to have in order to have that fulfillment. Because like I know people who are worth hundreds of millions of dollars, flying private jets, doing the like on paper the things that you're like Lamborghini, beautiful life, great house, who aren't happy. They're not fulfilled people.
Not at all.
Like they're actually like numbing themselves. And money and these objects are a source of numbing. They're an agent for numbing. And so I think most people are asleep, right? And I think it's a lot easier to be asleep than it is to wake up and be honest.
Way easier.
Is it? Yeah. Listen, no one ever said honesty is easy. I actually think it's the most amount of pain you're ever going to go through is getting honest with yourself until you understand it. And then you can have that Phoenix moment where you start flying out of the ashes. And for me, like my honesty moment came with a lot of pain. Stepping down from CEO of my company was one of the most painful experiences I've ever had, ever. And I thought that the pain would be the stepping away. It was actually the after. The after was when there was a lot of self-doubt. There was questioning. There was, what am I doing with my life? Why am I doing this? Did I make a mistake? And so it would have been a lot easier to just stay asleep. And I think that, you know, most people they go through these like crises where they try to get honest with themselves, but it's so scary that they then go back to sleep because it's a lot easier to go back to sleep. So I think it's about having the courage to go through that painful experience so that you can come out on the other side and have that moment when you see that nothing else will ever be the same. Like once you're honest with yourself.
And I think what folks don't realize is it's not like, you know, I like that word, like asleep, because I've used that before. It's like people need to wake up. And I think there's this odd misconception that like, well, someday it will change. It doesn't change. You change.
Yep.
And until you change, it doesn't change. So, you know, it's not like time helps.
There is no it. You're
yeah, right. Exactly.
one of the things I want to say though, which is the biggest realization I had, which I don't, I haven't, I did just get your book, and I was jokingly saying I've read it twice, but I really can't wait to read your book. I mean, dude, boom.
Love
Seriously, dude, I'm so pumped for your book. I
Thank you.
was like, man, I didn't even realize I was going to have it for the show because I just ordered it. Like Amazon, guys, if you want his book, which you should get his book, dude, it came in 2 days. I ordered it on Friday afternoon after our show, and it came Sunday night. My wife's like, what is that? I'm like, I think that's Peter's book. Awesome. But one of the realizations I had in going through that really painful experience, which was, I quit my job November 13th, and that painful experience started then. And it went really deep over the next couple months. And there was a lot of learning to be done and work on myself. But the biggest thing I realized in that honesty part, which I don't know if your book goes into this, but it's that we lie to ourselves a lot.
Yeah.
I'm one of my biggest things is honesty with people, like being authentic and like really like I'll be the most honest person you've ever asked ever. My wife doesn't like it sometimes. She's like, how does it look on me? And I'm like, doesn't look good. And she's like, why do you say that? I'm like, well, would you rather not look good and I lie to you, or would you rather I lie to you or be honest with you and you look better? But when you realize, if you think of yourself as an honest person, then the question is, are you honest to yourself? Mm-hmm. And my realization, Peter, which was, it took 42 years for me to realize this. I mean, I know I look beautifully young, but I'm beautiful. 40 years old.
I was just thinking that.
I thought you were thinking that. Was I'm the biggest liar to myself. And I didn't, I was naive, man. I thought I wasn't. And so I think like asking yourself, am I really honest with myself? You'll know it. Like when your body tells you. And so I started really listening to my body, and I had this aha moment where I was like, holy shit, man, I've been lying to myself for my whole life. Yeah. And that was a turning point. And since then, I can't go back. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I got the book, which has been something really interesting to sink my teeth into. I get to, like I said, meet people like yourself. And I feel like this is telling me something. It's saying I'm on the right path and that something really meaningful is going to happen. And I chose the word meaningful for a reason, because I was thinking about your book while I said it as well, which is a lot of times people write books or they go become speakers, or if in my case, I started companies and wanted high growth businesses because we want the award, right? We want people to say, oh, that's Darius. He has 1,000 employees. Oh, that's Darius. He's Inc. 500. Oh, that's Darius. Do you know what he's done? And that's all labels, right? Mm-hmm. And we like that. Like, this is like when you have that achiever mentality, you're like, yeah, I'm a fucking badass. Like, I've worked so hard to be that badass. But what I realize is none of that means anything, because at the end of the day, those things, you don't go to, like when you're asleep at night, your body doesn't care about those things. What matters at the end is that you're honest with yourself and that you have meaning in what you're doing and you actually feel fulfilled. And fulfillment is way different than achievement. They're not the same thing at all.
Not at all.
And I think the KPIs around a success look at achievement over fulfillment. That is we measure ourselves around achievement and notoriety and celebrity and money. And I like some of those things a lot. Like, but they aren't who you are. Who you are is who you are. And the minute you own that, I think a whole different world opens up.
Yes, and it's the only world that really matters. I mean, it's what's true. Yeah, the rest is just bullshit, whether we want to admit it to ourselves or not.
Totally.
So that's the irony of it all. Darius, what was there you've shared so many already. Was there a biggest loss or regret you wanted to dive into aside from what you've already shared, or have we covered that?
No, I'll say this, is that in the process of going through this big transformation that's happened to me, was one major realization. And it's hard for me to say it, but it's so true, which is some people are, and maybe I'm just the exception, which I don't think I am, but maybe I am. It's really easy for us to put ourselves first when it comes to maybe, let's say, exercise or diet. That's a known, that's a well-worn path, right? Like, oh, you got to take care of yourself, get sleep, have a good diet, have good exercise. And that's something I've always been able to go to take care of myself. The one area though, the one regret I have is that I have spent my entire life punishing myself to achieve more as hard as I possibly can.
Yeah. You and me both.
right? And when I would have success, Peter, I would never celebrate it because I would wait for the next taste of success. And so my biggest regret was buying into that lie and not being honest with myself that I didn't need that. And although I do want to still have achievement and success in those things, I don't want it just for the sake of checking a box. I want it because it means something to me and because I'm actually doing it in the service of creating a better world and better people around me. And that a result of that is achievement, not for the act of achievement in of itself.
Yep. And I think the big awakening for me is I started to think about it in terms of the time is going to go by no matter what. We do get a decision on what we're doing in the time that goes by. But, I've spent years chasing achievement and not fulfillment, and those years are gone. Like I can't swap them now. I can only make different choices going forward. So that was a big paradigm shift for me. Darius, this has been fantastic. Where can people follow along with you and the book journey and learn more about what you do?
Thank you. Look, there's a couple places that are easy. One is if you go to my website, www.therealdarius.com. All the socials on there. You can follow the book on there. Obviously, the book's it's available on Amazon. It comes out September 15th, but you can do pre-orders and whatnot, Audible, all that stuff. And then I'm live streaming on Facebook and on a bunch of other channels. So you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is under my name, and or at The Real Darius M on Facebook, which is my business site, and my live streams up on there. And that's for the Greatness Machine, which you were on last week, which is that's my passion next to the book. So the book, the live stream, my website, all those things are great places.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. And, now people, it's the real, this is not the fake Darius. No. This is the real, you get the real thing here.
Numero uno.
So it's so great. Listen, I say this at the end of every show, like every leader that's come on is like, yeah, duh, honesty. That's it. That's the way. There is no other way. The other way is fake. It's not the real Darius, right? So, what I want more than anything, as Darius, you were alluding to, is wake up. Who are you really that you've been denying? What do you really want? And I'm willing to bet that the odds of you going directly to what you really want, do not pass go, do not collect $200, it's probably slim. And it's time to wake up. This guy stepped away from 1,000 employees, a massive company. If he can do that, anyone can get on the path to authenticity and truth. So thank you so much. For any of you who have not gotten your copy of Honest to Greatness yet, please do. It means the world to me. Darius, thank you so much for being on the show.
Dude, thank you for having me, man. I'm so just excited for everything you're doing, and this is awesome, man. I'm really pumped for you.
It's my pleasure. You're very good for the ego, and my ego and I both appreciate it. Thank you, sir, very much. And until next time, folks, I'm Peter Kozodoy. Thanks for being honest.
Out.